This is Zone Trading Part 5. In Part 4 we discussed the use of a dual zone. In Part 5 we're going to discuss multiple zones, 2 or more. In this case we're going to use 3. Now we're going to focus your attention just on a couple of quick points here and show you how to set this up. We're using the same charts as before, but now we have an 1100, a 6000, and a 10,950. That's based on a Fibonacci calculation. These charts are in your Send Chart workspace. Now, we've talked about an entrance for a short trade in here. Okay? Now, in all cases, we have the conditions for a short trade. Now, we talked about the exit on this trade. We're moving down. Here, we're beyond the bands, so there's no trade there. The next time is right in here. Okay? 1021. 1021 corresponds to this point in here. All right? Now, we could get a trade here using a dual zone approach. But look at 1021 on this chart. Okay, let me line that up. 1021 happens right in here, and you do not get a trade because you're not below the band yet. You don't get that trade until right in here, when you're first below the band, and that's taking place at around 1034 or right in here. Okay, or right in here. Here, here, as well as in here. Okay? So the point of the matter is you're gonna eke out a little better trade using multiple zones. Not just 2, but maybe even 3. Every little bit makes a difference. Whether you're talking a point or even 3 ticks, it's going to make a difference in your equity curve. So, how do you set this up? Now, first things that you want to keep in mind is the zone setting. You do not want to use exactly the same settings on the zone. Now here, this inner zone is set to 102. This zone is also set to 102. But in this zone, we're set to 101.8, a little less. So you set that up in the Send charts. Make sure the APZ zone is set up in this 10,950 tick bar in the Send chart. Let's take a look at that. I'll grab it. Send charts here. Right? There we have it. This has got to be set to true. APZ length, band 1, band 2, doesn't matter too much. Okay, now you're set. Given these settings, now we're sending out the data. How do we set this up in the strategy? Our first 2 zones are set up here. But notice this here. Use APZ aux1 and aux2. We're going to set this to true. It's going to give us the option to add 2 more zones. So we're going to move down all the way down here about middle of the way to aux DPO string 1, string 2, and string 3. In this case, we're just going to add 1 more string. So, quotation at, yes, All right? Now you've got 3 zones. You could add a 4th, okay, if you wanted to. But we're just going to restrict our discussion to the use of 3. And that's how you do it. Okay? So keep in mind, ESDPO string 1, string 2 creates the 2 zones, the original 2 zones. And we have 2 more zones available here under the aux, standing for auxiliary. So way back up here, once again, this has got to be set to true. This has to be set to true. You could add more zones than this if you wanted to. Because look at what you've got here. You've got another 2 zones here. You could have up to 6 different zones if you wanted to. We'll just limit it to 3. So that's how you set it up in the strategy. And then, of course, the final calculation of the trade is going to be based on whatever other filters you've got running at the time, group reversals, for example. And keep in mind that your trade is not going to be plotted on any of these charts. All right, we're not going to plot the trade on any of these charts unless you want to have the strategy on that chart. You don't have to. You can put the strategy on any tick bar interval that you wish, 100 tick bar, for example. And all of the calculations will be done. The signal will be pulled on whatever chart you place the strategy. So you don't have to place it on here. All that we're doing here is showing you the concept by actually plotting the zones. All right, actually plotting the zones so you see the idea. But in the strategy, nothing is plotted. The only thing you're going to see is a signal when all of these conditions reach confluence. There's agreement, and once that occurs, boom, you get the signal. But that's how you can use now a multiple zone approach. So ordinarily, when we set up our trades, we're going to use the tick strategy workspace. So here you are in your tick strategy workspace. You're going to choose one of these charts to put the strategy in and set it up accordingly. And it's really that simple. So we've talked about the use of a single zone approach for the purpose of having a predictable number of points based upon the spread of the 2 inner zones. We've talked about a dual zone approach, primarily for an exit, sometimes for an entry, or even a triple zone, or perhaps even more, to maximize your profits after your entry. Okay? So, this is a fine way to make good money in a predictable fashion using the tick strategy. This is the new RSK tick strategy APZ4. You've got a lot of flexibility in this particular code. So try this out. Again, this is primarily for those who are already in our system. They use our system. So if you're watching this video and you don't know what we're talking about, it's because this was designed for members only. But if you're interested, come to our website, RSKsys.com, ask for a demo. We'll be happy to show you more. So that completes our discussion of zone trading, part 5.